Hello. Welcome back. Congratulations. We completed more than 60% of our course. As you are aware, in this series we are covering PM Body of Knowledge, 6th edition. And now we are going to start Chapter 9, Project Resource Management. Without any delay, let's get started.
Hey there, curious minds. Have you ever planned something really exciting? Maybe a surprise birthday party for your best friend, perhaps?
Oh, yeah. Those could be tricky.
Totally. Or maybe a grand community Ganesh Puja celebration in your colony, or even just, organizing your study group for a big, scary exam. You pour your heart into it, right? But then imagine this. You're decorating and suddenly realize you don't have enough colored paper for the garlands.
Oh, no. Been there.
Or the sound system for the puja isn't loud enough for everyone to hear the bhajans. That's awkward.
Really?
Or, even worse, your friend who's a whiz at math and who promised to help with the toughest problems for your study group is suddenly busy with a family event.
Ah, the worst timing.
Suddenly your big, amazing plan hits a huge snag, doesn't it? That feeling of things going wrong because you don't have what you need when you need it. It's frustrating.
It really is.
Well, today we're diving deep into a topic that helps us handle exactly these kinds of situations, not just for parties or school projects, but for massive, complex undertakings. Think building a new metro line or launching a satellite.
Huge stuff.
Exactly. It's called project resource management. Think of it as the secret sauce that makes sure you have everything you need, the right people, the right materials, the right equipment, exactly when and where you need them to turn your big ideas into amazing realities.
Yeah.
Our mission today is to unpack some golden nuggets of wisdom from a global guidebook for projects, often called the PMBOK guide, and make managing resources super clear for you, even if you're just starting to dream about big projects.
That's a perfect way to put it. Many people think managing a project is just about making a to-do list.
Right, just check the boxes.
Exactly, but it's so much more. It's really about knowing who will do what specific task, with what tools or materials, and crucially, when all of this needs to happen. We're going to explore how top project managers around the world think about this. Imagine being the head chef for a huge wedding feast, maybe 1,000 guests.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure.
It is. You need to know not just the ingredients, but who's chopping the vegetables, who's cooking the biryani, who's serving the guests, and where all the utensils and serving dishes are at all times. It's a huge coordination act.
I can only imagine.
We'll show you how to think like one of these pros. And trust me, these are skills you can use in your daily life too. From nailing a school project to helping out with a big family event, like a wedding or maybe a community festival. They'll help you avoid those frustrating snags we talked about.
That sounds incredibly useful. So let's start at the very beginning then. When we say project resource management, what exactly is it?
Okay, at its core, project resource management is all about making sure you have the right people, the right equipment, and the right materials available at the right time and in the right place for your project to succeed. It's like setting up a cricket match.
Ah, good analogy.
Yeah, you need the players, obviously, but also the bats, balls, wickets, and even a well-prepared ground, all available and ready at match time. If any one of those is missing or late, the game can't start or won't be played properly.
Makes sense.
So, it's a structured way of thinking about all the stuff and people you need for your project. And we generally divide resources into two main categories: physical resources and team resources, which are also sometimes called human resources.
Okay, physical and team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this distinction is really important because, well, you manage them very differently.
Ah, okay. So one is stuff and the other is people. Can you break down that difference for us with some examples, maybe from our daily lives here in India?
Of course. Let's think about, say, building a beautiful new community hall for your neighborhood, maybe for festivals, weddings, local meetings, that sort of thing.
Okay, I can picture that.
So physical resources are all the tangible things you can touch and see. The non-human elements you need to get the job done.
The stuff.
The stuff, exactly. For our community hall, these would be the bricks, the bags of cement, the steel rods, maybe a bulldozer to clear the land initially, the concrete mixing machine, and all the smaller tools like hammers, shovels, measuring tapes. You get the idea.
Right, the actual building materials and equipment.
Precisely. These are assets you might buy or rent, or maybe they get used up during the project, like the cement. Or Think simpler, like a science fair project for school. Your physical resources are your poster board, test tubes, wires, batteries, the actual science kit. They're the things that enable the work.
Got it. And the team resources, the people side.
Right. Team resources are the human element. The people with different skills and knowledge who actually make the project happen. For the community hall, these are the masons laying the bricks, the electricians doing the wiring, the architect who designed it, the supervisor overseeing the work, and the helpers carrying materials.
The skilled labor and the management.
Exactly. These are the individuals and their unique contributions. For your science project, it's you, your friends in the group, maybe your older sibling, who helps you troubleshoot the experiment or find information online. It's all about the people and their unique contributions, their skills, their time.
That makes perfect sense. But it sounds like a lot of work just to figure out what you need. Why is it so crucial to bother with all this detailed planning? What happens if you don't manage your resources properly?
That's an excellent question, and it really gets to the heart of why this matters. It's where the real impact of good or bad resource management becomes clear. Let's go back to our community hall project.
Okay.
What if you fail to secure the right equipment, like that concrete mixer, on time? Maybe the supplier double booked it. The entire construction could halt, just stop, for days, maybe longer. That leads to significant delays, pushes back the inauguration date.
People would be disappointed.
Exactly. People can't use the hall as planned, and you might even lose money if you'd promised it by a certain date, perhaps for a wedding picking.
Oof.
It has real consequences.
Okay, so delays are a big one. What else?
Well, what if you try to save a little money by ordering, say, low-quality cement? You think, oh, it's cheaper.
Cutting corners.
Yep. But the hall might not be strong or safe. A year later, maybe cracks start appearing in the walls. Now you need expensive repairs.
Oh, that's bad.
It's just like a house whose foundation cracks because of poor material choice.
Yeah.
Those repairs often cost way more in the long run than if you just used the right quality materials from the start.
So quality suffers too.
Absolutely. And think about quantities. What if you ordered way too many bricks? They just sit there, unused, taking up valuable space on the construction site. They might get damaged by weather, and you've paid for them. Plus, maybe you're paying to store them somewhere. It's like paying rent for a warehouse for items you don't even need.
Wasted money.
Totally wasted money. And on the flip side, what if you order too few bricks?
The work stops again.
Exactly. The work stops completely, and the masons are standing around idle because they literally have nothing to build with.
You're paying them, but they can't work. That wastes their time and your money.
So it's not just about getting things, but getting the right things on time and critically, not too much or too little. That sounds like a lot of balancing.
Precisely. It's all about optimizing, making sure every rupee and every person hour is used wisely to avoid these very real risks, costly delays, poor quality outcomes, wasted money. It really sets the stage for success or failure.
Yeah.
Without careful planning and control of resources, even the most brilliant project idea can stumble and fail. It means having clear data on what you need now, what you'll need later, what setups or configurations are required, and understanding the supply chain where things are coming from.
So it's proactive.
Absolutely. Failing to manage resources efficiently can be a huge source of risk. Critical equipment not arriving on time could halt manufacturing. Low inventory could mean you can't meet customer demand. It's about solving problems before they even fully emerge. Okay, I'm convinced it's crucial. So we understand what project resource management is and why it's so important. It sounds like it needs a very systematic approach. Let's look at the 6 key steps or processes that project managers follow. You said it's like a recipe.
Yeah, sort of like a recipe for successfully handling all your projects, people, and things. We can walk through each one step by step, maybe using a different example. How about that street food festival we mentioned?
Perfect. A big street food festival. Let's do it. What's step 1?
Fantastic. So step 1 is called plan resource management. This is the very first step, right at the beginning, where you decide how you're going to handle all your resources throughout the entire project.
Okay, the how.
Exactly. It's about defining your strategy, your overall approach. For our street food festival, maybe it's for Diwali or Eid. This step is where you decide how you'll figure out what food cells you need, how you'll recruit and manage volunteers, where you'll get the special ingredients for all those delicious dishes, and how you'll manage everything from the early morning setup to the late night cleanup.
So it's the game plan for managing the resources themselves.
Precisely. It sets the overall approach and figures out how much effort you need to put into managing resources, ensuring you have a clear roadmap before you start ordering stuff or hiring people.
That makes sense. So before you even begin making that plan, what kind of information do you need? What's the foundation?
Good question. You need a few key documents to start. First, the project charter. Think of this as the official permission slip or the big idea for the festival.
The green light.
Exactly. It says what the festival is, its high-level description, maybe some general requirements, and roughly what it aims to achieve. It might also list major milestones and any initial budget that's already been approved.
Okay, charter first. What else?
Then you need the project management plan, which is your overall strategy document for the entire festival project. Specific parts of this plan are really important here. For instance, the quality management plan.
Right, hygiene standards for food stalls.
Exactly. How clean must they be? What about food safety during preparation? That plan tells you. Then there's the scope baseline. This defines the festival's full extent.
Like how many types of food entertainment, how big the area is.
Precisely. Without knowing the scope, you can't figure out the scale of resources needed. And crucially, the stakeholder register.
Who's that?
It lists everyone involved or affected. The street vendors, the local municipality maybe, the residents living nearby, any sponsors, the performers, everyone.
Okay. Why are they important for resources?
Because their needs, their expectations, their interests will significantly influence your resource plans. The municipality might have rules about waste disposal, sponsors might have requirements for signage. You need to know all that. Plus, you need to understand the environment, where the facility is located, what skills do your potential volunteers already have, what are the market conditions like for renting equipment right now. All that feeds into the plan.
Wow, that's a lot of background info just to start planning the resources. So once you have all that, how do you actually put together this plan for resources? What tools or techniques do you use?
Great question. One really powerful technique is simply expert judgment.
Talking to people who've done it before.
Exactly. You probably wouldn't try to plan a huge festival from scratch if you've never done it, right? You talk to someone experienced, maybe the seasoned prod hand or community head who knows all the local vendors and volunteers, or maybe a professional event manager.
Sure.
Their experience is invaluable. They know how to negotiate for resources, manage large teams, estimate effort, how long it takes to get certain permits or supplies, and they can warn you about potential risks. They might say, don't bother with that supplier, they're always late, or this many volunteers usually works for a crowd this size based on last year's event.
That makes sense. Use their wisdom. What else?
Another key technique is data representation. Basically, using charts and diagrams to make things clear. Have you ever heard of a RACI chart? RACI.
Doesn't ring a bell. What's that?
It stands for responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. It's a simple chart, like a grid or matrix, that clearly defines who does what for each task.
Okay.
For our food festival, who is responsible for actually ordering the tables for the stalls? Maybe a specific volunteer coordinator. Who is accountable if they don't arrive on time? That's usually one single person ultimately answerable for that task, maybe the overall logistics manager. Who do we need to consult about the layout of the stalls? Perhaps the fire safety officer or the head vendor. And who do we need to inform once the tables are set up and ready? Maybe the stall owners themselves need to know.
Ah, I see. So everyone knows their exact role for each piece of work.
Precisely. It makes sure no task falls through the cracks, everyone knows their specific role and level of authority, and it avoids confusion. It prevents that situation where everyone thinks someone else is handling something, like cleaning up the plates afterwards. With a fire rate chart, it's crystal clear who is responsible for cleanup. You can also use things like organizational charts to show team structure or flow charts for processes.
That sounds really useful for avoiding chaos. So what's the result of all this planning? What do you actually get at the end of step 1?
You get two really important documents out of this. First, the resource management plan itself. This is your detailed blueprint, your rule book for how you'll handle all your resources, people, and stuff throughout the entire festival project.
Okay.
It outlines how you'll identify what you need, how you'll acquire it, the process, how you'll manage the people side, and even how you'll release resources when they're no longer needed. It also defines roles and responsibilities in detail, the function, authority, duties, required skills for each key role. It might even include plans for team development or how you'll recognize volunteers' efforts.
So that's the main plan. You said 2 documents.
Yes, the second one is a team charter. Think of this like the ground rules or code of conduct, specifically for your festival volunteers or core team.
Ah, like team rules.
Exactly. It establishes their shared values, like we prioritize visitor safety above all else. How they'll communicate, e.g., Use the WhatsApp group for urgent updates only, no forwards during shifts. How they'll make decisions together. Example, minor layout changes can be decided by vote if there's disagreement. And how they'll resolve conflicts. For example, if 2 volunteers want the same prime stall duty, we'll draw lots or find a fair rotation.
Okay.
This document, ideally, is developed with input from the team themselves, so they feel ownership. It ensures everyone is on the same page and works together harmoniously. Like a well-coordinated kitchen team making delicious pav bhaji, it aims to decrease misunderstandings and really boost productivity and team morale right from the start.
That makes perfect sense. A plan for the resources and rules for the team. Okay, so you've got your big plan laid out, who's doing what, how the team will operate. Now, how do you figure out the exact quantity of resources needed? Like, how many kilograms of potatoes for the pav bhaji at each stall, or how many water bottles for all the volunteers? This is where it gets very specific, right? Down to the numbers.
Absolutely. This next step, step 2, is called Estimate Activity Resources. It's all about detailing what kind and how much of each resource, team members, materials, equipment, is needed for each specific task or activity in your project.
Getting into the nitty-gritty.
Exactly. This is where you get down to the fine details. For our food festival, it's deciding exactly how many string lights are needed for the entire venue, how much electrical wire for each stall connection, how many food handlers per stall based on expected crowd flow, or how many dustbins are needed for the whole area to keep it clean. It involves estimating the type and quantities of material, equipment, supplies, and even specifying the skills needed for the human resources for each task.
Okay. And what information do you look at to make these precise estimates? Where do you start?
You start with your activity list, which breaks down the entire festival into every single task, like setting up lighting rigs, arranging seating area, serving food at stall X, collecting waste. Each task will also have activity attributes, which give more detail, like its location, lighting for main stage, any assumptions you're making, assuming power supply is stable, and any constraints. Must use energy-efficient bulbs.
Makes sense. What else?
And resource calendars are crucial here again. These tell you when a specific resource is actually available. Remember our example. Vendor A's cooking equipment is available Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but volunteer B can only work Saturday evenings because they have tuition classes. You need to know availability to estimate correctly. We also look back at the project's scope baseline to make sure we cover everything, and the resource management plan gives us guidance on how to identify and quantify resources based on our overall strategy.
Got it. So, how do you actually calculate these numbers? Are there special techniques?
Yes, absolutely. This is where various estimation techniques come in handy, like different ways to calculate or predict the quantities.
Okay.
One method is bottom-up estimating. This is like counting every single grain of rice you need for a giant biryani order.
Very precise.
Extremely precise. You estimate each tiny task first, for example. Setting up one food stall needs 2 people for 1 hour, 4 chairs, 1 table, plus 1 small gas stove, and 2 cylinders. Then you add up all these small estimates for every stall, every task, to get the grand total for the whole festival. It's very accurate, but as you can imagine, it takes a lot of time and very detailed information about each task. It's perfect when precision is absolutely key.
Okay, that sounds intense. Are there quicker ways?
Yes, there's analogous estimating. This is generally quicker. You think, okay, last year's Diwali Mela in the next neighborhood had 50 stalls and about 100 volunteers. And our festival this year is pretty similar in size and scope. So we'll probably need roughly the same amount of resources.
Using past experience.
Exactly. It uses data or experience from past similar projects as a guide. It's good for quick estimates early on, maybe when you don't have all the detailed information yet, but it's less precise than bottom-up. Its accuracy depends heavily on how similar the projects actually are.
Okay, what else?
Then there's parametric estimating. This uses math and statistical relationships based on historical data.
Math, okay.
Yeah. If you know from past festivals that one food stall needs 10 square feet of space and typically consumes 5 kilograms of potatoes per hour during peak times, then for 20 stalls running for 5 peak hours, you can calculate you need 10 Henkel's 200 square feet of stall space and 25.55 equal 500 kilograms of potatoes.
Using a rate or formula.
Precisely. Or one security guard can effectively manage a zone with about 50 people, so for a projected peak crowd of 500, you need 10 guards. It's very precise if you have good historical data and a clear, measurable relationship between the variables.
Makes sense. Any other techniques?
One more key one is alternatives analysis. This means looking at different ways to get a task done and comparing their resource implications.
Like rent versus buy.
Exactly. Should we buy new cooking gas cylinders for each stall, or is it cheaper and easier to rent them just for the festival duration? Should we hire professional chefs, or can we rely on skilled home cooks who are volunteering? Each option has different resource needs, cost, availability, maybe even skill level required. You analyze these alternatives and choose the best one based on your project's constraints like budget, time, and quality requirements. You'd also use expert judgment here too, and hold people. Meetings with people like functional managers or experienced team leads to get their insights and reality checks on the estimates.
Wow, so many ways to estimate. It sounds like combining these gives you a really solid picture by the end of this step.
Exactly. After all this detailed estimation work, you get two key outputs. First, resource requirements. This is a detailed list identifying the types and quantities of resources needed for each specific work package or activity in the project. It's your shopping list, essentially.
Okay, the list. What's the second output?
The second output is often a resource breakdown structure, or RBS. Think of this like a hierarchical shopping list or an organized inventory chart.
Hierarchical, like a family tree.
Kind of. It categorizes resources. So at the top level, you might have people, materials, equipment. Then under people, you might break it down into chefs, servers, cleaners, security. Under materials, you might have vegetables, spices, oil, disposable plates, water. Under equipment, stoves, refrigerators, serving dishes, generators, sound systems.
So it organizes everything clearly.
Precisely. It makes it super easy to see all your needs at a glance, grouped logically. It helps ensure you're not missing anything critical, like maybe forgetting about first aid supplies under materials. The RPS becomes a vital reference point for the next step, acquiring resources, and for monitoring them later on during the festival.
Okay, makes total sense. So now you know exactly what you need, down to the last potato and volunteer hour. Step 3 must be about actually getting those resources right. How do you find the right people and materials and bring them onto the project?
You got it. Step 3 is acquire resources. This is the process of actually obtaining the team members, facilities, equipment, materials, and supplies you identified and estimated in the previous steps. It's basically the shopping and hiring phase.
Time to hit the market.
Exactly. For our food festival, this is when you actually contact the food vendors and finalize agreements, recruit and onboard the volunteers, formally book the festival ground and any needed facilities like restrooms or storage, and purchase or rent the necessary equipment like tables, chairs, sound systems, generators. This step outlines and guides the selection process and then formally assigns those selected resources to your project.
What information is absolutely vital for this acquisition process? What do you need in hand?
You absolutely need your resource requirements list from the last step that tells you precisely what to get and in what quantities. And the resource calendars are still incredibly important.
Right, availability.
Yes, you need to know when each person or piece of equipment is available so you don't accidentally book that super popular Dawala for your festival who was already committed to playing at a wedding on the exact same day.
That would be a disaster.
It would. You also need the resource management plan, which gives you guidance on how to acquire them. Does your organization require a formal bidding process for suppliers? Or can you simply buy things off the shelf? The plan tells you. And if you're getting resources from outside your organization, the procurement management plan is crucial. It guides how you'll manage contracts, negotiations, and relationships with external suppliers or vendors.
Okay, so how do you choose? Especially with people, how do you pick the best volunteer or vendor?
That's where decision-making techniques come in, especially something called multi-criteria decision analysis. Sounds fancy, but it just means you evaluate options based on several factors, not just one, like price.
Okay, multiple criteria. Like what?
Well, for selecting a volunteer, you might look at several criteria. Their availability. Can they commit to the full shift you need them for? Their experience. Have they helped at a similar festival before? Do they know the ropes? Their knowledge. Do they know the local area well? Maybe speak multiple languages helpful for visitors. Their skills. Can they manage a counter smoothly? Handle cash accurately? Maybe they have first aid training. And even their attitude. Are they generally friendly, cooperative, a good team player, enthusiastic?
Right, you weigh all those things.
Exactly. You might even assign weights to each criterion based on importance. You weigh these criteria to pick the best overall fit for the role. It's just like choosing a tuition teacher for your sibling. You don't just pick the cheapest one, right? You consider their teaching style, past results of their students, their patients, and the fees. It's about making a balanced decision.
Makes sense. What if the resources you need are hard to get? Sometimes the best people or the specific materials are in high demand, right?
Absolutely. Competition can be fierce. That's where negotiation skills become really important.
Haggling.
Sometimes, yes. But also more formal negotiation. You might need to negotiate with a busy, popular caterer for their time and services, maybe offering them a prime spot or extra visibility. Or you negotiate with a vendor for a better price on ingredients or equipment, especially if you're buying in bulk for the festival. Your ability to influence others by clearly articulating the project's benefits, building rapport, finding common ground is key here.
Okay, so negotiation is a tool. What about resources you already know you have?
Right. Sometimes resources are pre-assigned. This means they were already decided upon before you even started this step. Perhaps the main musical act for the festival was a condition set by a major sponsor, or maybe a key volunteer, like the community leader heading the organizing committee, was involved from the very beginning. In those cases, you don't need to go through the acquisition process for them. They're already part of the plan. You just confirm their assignment.
Gotcha. That simplifies things sometimes. Now, speaking of teams, what about modern teams where people aren't all sitting in the same office? How does that work?
That's a great point, and increasingly common. We often work with virtual teams or distributed teams. Imagine your festival's marketing team. Maybe one person is in Mumbai handling all the social media buzz.
Right.
Another is in Delhi designing the posters and flyers. And a third person is down in Bengaluru managing partnerships with local tech companies for sponsorship.
So they're spread out.
Exactly. They work together seamlessly, or hopefully seamlessly, using tools like video calls, Zoom, Google Meet, shared documents, Google Docs, OneDrive, and online collaboration platforms, Slack, Microsoft Teams. They might rarely, if ever, be in the same physical room.
Wow.
This is powerful because it allows you to tap into special expertise regardless of location. You can get the best graphic designer even if they live hundreds of kilometers away. It's much like how online classes allowed students from all over India to learn from the best teachers during the pandemic, right?
Yeah, true.
It opens up huge possibilities for finding the best talent. The challenge, of course, is managing communication effectively across different time zones, making sure everyone feels included and connected, and overcoming potential cultural differences. You need deliberate strategies to make virtual teams work well.
Right, avoiding that feeling of isolation. So after all this hard work of identifying, estimating, and actually acquiring or assigning all these resources, the people, the equipment, the materials, what's the tangible outcome? What do you actually have at the end of step 3?
Good question. You get clear physical resource assignments. These are records showing exactly what equipment or material is assigned where. For instance, Stall 5 gets 2 large cooking ranges and 1 industrial water dispenser delivered by 9 a.m. on Friday.
Okay, records for the stuff.
And you get project team assignments. These documents formally assign specific people to specific roles or tasks. For example, Rohan Sharma is assigned to manage the Pav Bhaji counter from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. daily, reporting to Priya Singh. Or Priya Singh is in charge of managing waste disposal volunteers for the entire event duration.
So everyone knows exactly where they need to be and what they're doing.
Precisely. These are official records of who and what is officially on the project team or allocated to the project, and when they are available and assigned to specific tasks. These assignments, along with updated resource calendars reflecting these commitments, help ensure everything and everyone is in place at the right time. And sometimes, if you couldn't get the resources you originally planned for, maybe that specific cooking range wasn't available. This step might generate change requests to adjust the project plan, schedule, or budget based on the alternatives you had to choose.
Okay, that makes sense. So you've gone through all the effort to find and assign your team members. You've got your volunteers, your vendors, maybe some staff. But just putting a group of individuals together doesn't automatically make them a great team, does it? How do you make them work well together, gel as a unit?
Exactly. That is such a critical point, and it leads us directly to step 4, develop team. This step is all about improving the competencies, the skills, the interaction, and the overall environment for the team to enhance project performance.
So making the team better.
Yes. Think of a cricket team practicing together before a big tournament. They're not just working on their individual batting or bowling skills, right?
No, they practice fielding drills, communication.
Exactly. Their communication on the field, mine, 2 runs, their trust in each other, knowing the fielder will back them up, and their overall team spirit and morale. A well-developed team performs better, they usually enjoy the work more, and they tend to stay together longer, which reduces the disruption and cost of people leaving mid-project. And importantly, this isn't a one-time thing you do at the start, it's a continuous process throughout the project lifecycle.
Okay, continuous improvement. What information do you need about your team to develop them effectively?
You need their project team assignments, knowing who is doing what, helps you understand where skills might need development or where roles interact. You also rely heavily on the team charter.
Ah, the ground rules again.
Yes. Those ground rules and communication agreements we talked about earlier, these tell you what skills they might need, like conflict resolution, if that's in the charter, and how they're supposed to behave, which guides your development efforts toward achieving that ideal. The resource management plan also provides guidance. It might outline general team development methods the organization prefers, or how you plan to recognize contributions.
So, what are the actual techniques? How do you do team development?
There are many ways to build a strong, cohesive team. It depends on the team and the project. One is collocation. If it's possible, having team members work in the same physical space can be really powerful.
Being together.
Yeah, like all the festival volunteers gathering at the festival site for a joint briefing and pre-event setup. It naturally boosts communication, allows for spontaneous problem solving. Hey, has anyone seen the tape? And builds a sense of community. Even just setting up a common area, like a volunteer tent with tea and snacks where team members can relax and chat during breaks, helps build bonds.
Simple but effective. What else?
Interpersonal and team skills are huge. This isn't just one skill, but a whole cluster of them, important for both the project manager and the team members themselves. Conflict management. We touched on this. Disputes are natural when passionate people work closely together. If two volunteers disagree strongly on how to decorate a stall or handle a difficult visitor, the manager needs tools to help resolve it constructively. Fostering an environment where disagreements can be discussed openly and respectfully before they escalate is key. We'll dive into specific techniques in the next step. Manage team. Motivation. How do you keep volunteers excited and engaged, especially when the work gets tiring? You empower them. Let them make decisions about their own areas where possible. Give them challenging tasks that stretch their abilities, but provide support. And genuinely, sincerely appreciate their hard work and contribution. Providing a clear why, the purpose behind the festival, and encouraging independent work are powerful motivators. It's about making them feel their contribution truly matters. Team building activities. This can range from formal activities to informal ones. Quick icebreaker games before planning meeting, maybe a dedicated team building workshop, or even a special outing, like a picnic or a movie night for the volunteers after a particularly hard week. Even something as simple as arranging a shared meal together before the festival kicks off can build incredible rapport and trust, especially if the volunteers are from diverse backgrounds or different parts of the city and don't know each other well. Team building isn't just a one-off. It should happen continuously to maintain that positive spirit.
Okay, so building skills and relationships. What about recognition?
Absolutely critical. Recognition and rewards. People are highly motivated when they feel their efforts are seen and valued. And it's definitely not just about money, especially for volunteers in our festival example.
Right.
A simple, genuine thank you can go a long way. A certificate of appreciation they can keep. Or even just publicly acknowledging a volunteer's extra effort during a team meeting. Maybe someone who stayed late to fix the sound system, or managed to find those really specific, difficult to find flowers for decoration. That public praise can be incredibly powerful. The key is to do this throughout the project, not just saving it all for the end, and ideally, tailor the recognition to what each individual values. For some, it might be a public shout-out. For others, a quiet, personal thank you note means more.
Tailoring it makes sense. What about skills gaps?
That's where training comes in. If a volunteer needs to learn how to use a new online ticketing system you're implementing, or if food handlers need a refresher course on safe food handling practices and hygiene standards, provide that training.
Invest in them.
Exactly. It helps them do their job better, makes them feel more confident and capable, and it improves their overall skills, which benefits them beyond just this project. Good training can also reduce errors, potentially save costs, less food spoilage, and improve the quality of the visitor experience. It shows you're invested in their success and development.
That's great. Now, I've heard about something called the Tuckman ladder for team development. It sounds like it describes stages teams go through. Can you explain that simply for our listeners? How does a group actually become a team?
Yes, the Tuckman ladder. It's a very common and really helpful model for understanding how teams typically grow and mature over time. Think about how a group of new students assigned to a project might eventually become a really close-knit, effective study group. Tuckman identified 5 stages.
Okay, 5 stages. What's the first?
First is forming. This is like the first day of school or the first meeting. Everyone is new, generally polite, maybe a bit anxious. They're trying to understand the project, their formal roles, and what's expected of them. Team members tend to be independent and maybe a bit reserved, less open. The project manager's role here is crucial in providing clear direction, introducing everyone, and setting initial expectations.
Okay, forming. Sounds polite, but maybe not much gets done yet. What's next?
Next comes storming. This is where things can get a bit, well, stormy. As the team starts to tackle the work, different ideas and personalities emerge and can clash. People start expressing opinions more strongly, maybe challenging each other or the leader. There might be disagreements about how things should be done, who should do what, or even power struggles.
The difficult phase.
It can be. This is where our study group might argue about whose turn it is to bring the snacks, which topic to study first, or maybe they disagree with the person who's trying to lead. It can actually be counterproductive if it's not managed well. The project manager needs to be actively involved here, guiding discussions, encouraging constructive debate, and mediating conflicts without taking sides. It's a necessary stage for ideas to surface, though.
Okay, storming. Hopefully they get through it. What's stage 3?
Stage 3 is norming. Phew. The team starts to settle down. They begin to resolve their differences, appreciate colleagues' strengths, and respect the leader's authority. They establish agreed-upon ways of working, either explicit rules or unwritten norms for behavior and communication. They start adjusting their habits to support the team. Our study group agrees on a schedule, roles like note-taker, timekeeper, and how they'll communicate. Trust begins to build. The project manager helps facilitate this, reinforcing positive norms, encouraging collaboration, and setting clear expectations for respectful interaction.
Okay, starting to sound like a real team now. Norming. What's after that?
Stage 4 is performing. Teams that reach this stage are functioning like a well-oiled machine. They are interdependent, working smoothly, efficiently, and effectively towards the shared project goals. Issues and conflicts still arise, but they're dealt with constructively and quickly by the team itself. The study group is now acing their practice tests because they're working in perfect sync, helping each other out, sharing knowledge, and solving problems collaboratively. The project manager's role here often shifts to mostly stepping back, providing support when needed, removing obstacles, and celebrating successes.
The ideal stage. Performing. Is that the end?
There's one more stage in Tuckman's model, adjourning. In this final phase, the project work is completed and the team prepares to disband. For temporary teams, like our festival volunteers or the study group after the final exams, this involves wrapping up activities and recognizing the team's contributions. There might be some sadness or nostalgia as the team separates. The project manager focuses on celebrating the team's achievements, capturing lessons learned, and helping team members transition smoothly to their next assignments or roles.
Forming, storming, norming, performing, adjourning. That's a really helpful way to think about team growth. So after all this effort in developing a team training, team building, navigating these stages, what's the main takeaway? What's the big outcome you get from step 4?
The main output, formally, is team performance assessments. This isn't just about individual performance, but how the team as a unit is doing. Are they communicating better? Are they solving problems more quickly and collaboratively? Is there less unproductive conflict? Is anyone leaving the team unexpectedly? High turnover? Or are people expressing more satisfaction?
So measuring the team's health.
Exactly. These assessments tell you if your team development efforts, the training, the team building, the recognition are actually working. And they highlight what further actions might be needed. Maybe the assessment shows the cricket team's fielding has improved, but their morale is still low, suggesting they need a special session with a sports psychologist. It's about identifying concrete improvements in skills, competencies, team cohesion, and seeing reductions in negative things like staff turnover. This assessment process might also lead to change requests if significant adjustments are needed based on the team's development, perhaps requiring changes to the project plan or team assignments, for example. Realizing a key team member needs much more specialized training than you initially budgeted for.
Okay, that makes sense. So you've developed your team. They're hopefully in the performing stage or getting there. Now you need to keep them running smoothly throughout the actual execution of the project, right? This is manage team step 5. Is this different from develop team? It sounds similar.
That's a very important distinction, and yes, they are different. While develop team, step 4, is about building up the team's capabilities and cohesion proactively. Manage team, step 5, it's about the ongoing day-to-day leadership, guidance, and problem-solving required during project execution.
Develop is building the engine,
Right.
manage is driving the car.
That's a great analogy. Exactly. Manage team is about tracking how individual team members are performing against their assigned tasks, providing constructive feedback regularly, not just once a year, resolving any issues or conflicts that inevitably pop up, and managing changes within the team, like someone getting sick or needing to change roles, to make sure they're always performing optimally and the project stays on track. So if our food festival is now underway, this is the project manager walking around the grounds, actively checking in with stall owners and volunteers, solving immediate problems like a sudden shortage of ice at the drink stall, or mediating that disagreement between two volunteers about who gets the next break during the busiest lunch rush. It's about influencing team behavior, managing conflict in real time, and keeping everything moving forward to optimize performance throughout the project's execution phase.
I see. So develop is more strategic, manage is more tactical day-to-day. What information helps you manage the team effectively during the race, using your analogy?
Precisely. During the race, you rely heavily on real-time data. So work performance reports are key inputs. These reports tell you how things are actually going compared to the plan. For our festival, this might be: how many plates of food were sold per hour by stall A versus the target? How quickly are visitor complaints being resolved by the info booth team? How many attendees are flowing through the gates compared to projections?
Actual results.
Yes, actual results. You also use the team performance assessments from the previous developed team SEP, which give you a baseline understanding of how the team is generally functioning and interacting. And the issue log is absolutely vital.
The problem diary.
Exactly. It's like a diary of problems or roadblocks. If a volunteer reported yesterday that the water supply connection at stall 3 keeps leaking, that's an issue logged here. You track its status. Is someone assigned to fix it? Has it been resolved? When? From start to finish. You also constantly refer back to the team charter for guidance on how the team agreed to operate and resolve issues, as well as the overall resource management plan.
Okay. And what skills or techniques are most critical for this managing part?
Crucially, here again, we rely heavily on those interpersonal and team skills. They become even more critical in the heat of execution, especially conflict management. This is vital because conflicts will happen, even in the best teams. Imagine our two festival volunteers arguing loudly over who gets to take their lunch break first during the peak crowd time. It's causing tension and maybe even affecting service. The project manager needs to step in effectively. Remember those 5 main ways to resolve conflict we mentioned?
You listed them. Avoid, accommodate.
Right. Let's recap them quickly, because knowing when to use is key to managing. Withdraw, avoid. Just stepping away, ignoring the conflict, or postponing the discussion indefinitely. Like walking away from the argument without resolving anything. Rarely a good long-term solution, as the underlying issue usually festers. Might be okay temporarily if emotions are extremely high and a cooling off period is absolutely needed. Smooth, accommodate. Giving in to the other party's demands to keep the peace, emphasizing areas of agreement and downplaying the differences. Like saying, okay, fine, you take the break now just to stop the argument, even if it's unfair or disrupts the plan. It prioritizes harmony over solving the problem and can lead to resentment if one person always gives in. Compromise, reconcile. Finding a middle ground where both sides give up something. Okay, neither of you gets a full hour break right now. You take 30 minutes now, I'll cover it, then you take 30 minutes. This could be a quick fix, but sometimes it feels like a lose-lose because neither party gets exactly what they wanted. Force direct. Using your formal authority or power to impose a solution. Look, I'm the supervisor. You will take your break later, and you will cover the stall now. End of discussion. This is a win-lose approach. It can be necessary in emergencies or when a quick, decisive action is needed for safety or project integrity, but it can seriously damage relationships and morale if used routinely. Collaborate, problem solve. This is usually the best approach for important issues. Working with both parties to understand their underlying needs and concerns, and finding a creative solution that satisfies everyone. Okay, let's figure this out. What's the real issue? Can we arrange for a third person to cover for 15 minutes so you both can take a slightly shorter break now? Or can one take a break now and the other get a guaranteed longer break later? This aims for a win-win outcome, fosters creativity, builds buy-in, and strengthens team relationships.
That breakdown is super helpful. Knowing those options seems crucial. What other skills are key in managing?
Emotional intelligence, EI, is huge here too. Being aware of your own emotions, and even more importantly, being able to perceive and respond appropriately to the emotions of your team members. If a volunteer seems unusually quiet or frustrated, an emotionally intelligent manager will notice their body language or tone, maybe gently ask if everything's okay, listen empathetically, and address their concerns rather than just ignoring it or piling on more tasks. This builds trust, reduces tension, and boosts cooperation. It's like being a good friend who notices when you're down and offers support without you having to spell it out.
Being perceptive and empathetic makes sense.
Also, influencing. Remember, project managers often don't have direct formal authority over everyone, especially volunteers or maybe experts from other departments. So they need to be persuasive. They need to clearly explain the why behind a request, actively listen to concerns, build trust through consistency and fairness, and find ways to get people on board and motivated without just ordering them around. It's like convincing your parents to let you go on that long school trip. You need a good plan, you need to address their worries, and you need to show you're responsible.
Right, influence, not just authority.
And finally, leadership. This encompasses many things inspiring the team towards the festival's vision, communicating effectively, making timely decisions, setting a positive example through your own behavior, providing constructive feedback, and guiding the team through challenges and changes. Good leadership keeps the team focused, motivated, and performing well, even when things get tough.
Wow, those interpersonal skills are really front and center in managing a team. So what's the main outcome of managing your team effectively day to day?
Often, the main outputs are change requests. If managing the team reveals significant issues like needing to replace a volunteer who suddenly falls ill and can't continue, or realizing a team's skill mix isn't right for the tasks ahead, requiring a staffing change, these situations might necessitate formal change requests that could impact the project's schedule, budget, or scope. You also get crucial work performance information, showing how well the team is meeting objectives, which feeds back into project control. And you'll be constantly updating project documents like the issue log, showing problems resolved, or the lessons learned register, capturing what worked well or poorly in team management for future projects. It's a continuous cycle of monitoring, intervening, and adjusting.
Okay, got it. That covers the people side during execution. Now, finally, we're at step 6, control resources. You mentioned earlier that while managed team focuses on the people, this step sounds like it's mainly about the stuff, the physical resources. Is that right? What's this all about?
You've got it exactly right. While managed team focuses primarily on guiding and supporting the human element, control resources, step 6, is primarily concerned with the physical resources. It's about making sure the materials, equipment, supplies, and facilities are available as planned, monitoring whether they are being used efficiently according to the plan, and taking corrective action if something goes wrong or deviates significantly.
So keeping track of the actual stuff.
Yes. For our festival, it's making sure the food stalls don't run out of essential ingredients like onions or cooking oil right at the peak of lunch hour. It's ensuring the backup generator has enough fuel to power the lights and sound system if the main power flickers. It's checking that the rented chairs aren't broken or disappearing. And it's verifying that any extra supplies ordered, like more ice or water bottles, are actually delivered on time and used appropriately, not wasted. It also includes making sure resources are released when they're no longer needed, like returning rented equipment promptly to avoid unnecessary costs or storage headaches.
So it's like quality control, inventory management, and making sure nothing gets wasted or goes missing.
Precisely. It's continuous monitoring throughout the project execution. If you notice one stall seems to be going through paper plates twice as fast as planned, leading to potential wastage and stock issues later, you investigate. If a key sound system speaker suddenly breaks down during a performance, this control resources process kicks in immediately to find a solution. It's all about comparing planned resource utilization versus actual utilization and addressing any variances quickly and effectively. If you plan to use 100 kilograms of vegetables by midday, but your inventory check shows you're already down to the last 10 kilograms, you know you have a problem that needs immediate action.
Okay. What information do you need to control these physical resources effectively?
You need the physical resource assignments, the plan that shows what was supposed to be where and maybe its expected usage rate, and critically, you need work performance data. This tells you what's actually happening on the ground.
The real numbers again.
Yes. For instance, we planned to use 500 plates in the first hour based on ticket sales, but the stalls reported using 600. Or, generator fuel consumption is 20% higher than estimated. This real-time data helps you spot problems or potential problems very quickly. You also refer back to your resource management plan for guidance on how these resources should be controlled, monitored, and eventually released. And sometimes, agreements with external suppliers are key inputs, especially if they define procedures for dealing with faulty equipment, ordering emergency supplies, or returning unused items for credit.
Got it. So how do you analyze this data and decide what to do? What techniques help here?
Here, data analysis techniques are very important. You're looking at numbers and patterns to make smart, informed decisions. One is alternatives analysis again. If you suddenly run out of cooking oil at a busy stall, what are your options? Do you quickly buy more from a nearby but much more expensive convenience store to avoid stopping production and losing sales? Or do you wait for your usual cheaper supplier who might only deliver tomorrow morning, meaning that stall loses significant sales today. You analyze the alternatives to correct the deviation in resource availability, weighing the pros and cons, cost, time, impact of each choice. Cost-benefit analysis is related. If a critical piece of rented equipment, say the main stage lighting ray, breaks down, you need to decide. Is it better to pay a premium for an emergency immediate repair, high cost now, to ensure the evening performances go ahead as planned, high benefit? Or is it more cost-effective to wait for a cheaper standard repair tomorrow, even if it means canceling or scaling back tonight's show? Lower cost, but potentially high negative impact. You weigh the cost of the corrective action against the benefit it provides to the project's overall success. Cost-benefit analysis is related. If a critical piece of rented equipment, say the main stage lighting rig, breaks down, you need to decide. Performance reviews involve regularly comparing the planned resource usage versus the actual usage captured in the work performance data. Are we consuming too much water at the cleaning stations? Are the decorative lights being left on unnecessarily in areas that are closed off overnight? This helps pinpoint inefficiencies or systemic issues that are influencing resource utilization, indicating where you might need to implement conservation measures or adjust procedures. Cost-benefit analysis is related. If a critical piece of rented equipment, say the main stage lighting rig, breaks down, you need to decide. Trend analysis involves looking at this performance data over time, not just at one point. If you see that paper plate usage has been consistently 15% higher than planned every hour for the past 3 hours, you can predict you'll likely run out much sooner than anticipated. This allows you to proactively order more before it becomes a crisis, rather than waiting for a stall to report they're completely out. Trend analysis helps identify if performance is improving or deteriorating and allows for timely intervention.
Okay, so analyzing the situation. What about actually fixing the problems?
That's where problem-solving methodologies come in. It's not just about patching things up. It's a systematic approach to finding and fixing the root cause. Let's say a food stall's main gas stove stops working mid-afternoon. You'd follow these methodical steps. 1. Identify the problem. Clearly stated, stove at stall 12 stopped producing flame. 2. Define the problem. What exactly is wrong? Is it a gas supply issue or malfunction of the stove unit itself? Is it just this one stove or are others affected, indicating a wider gas supply issue? 3. Investigate. Gather all the facts. Check the gas cylinder, is it empty? Check the regulator, the burner jets, the connecting pipe for leaks or blockages. Talk to the vendor using it. 4. Analyze. Based on the investigation, determine the root cause. Maybe it's simple. The gas cylinder is indeed empty, or perhaps the regulator is faulty. 5. Solve. Choose and implement the most suitable solution. If the cylinder is empty, get a replacement immediately from the backup supply you hopefully planned for. If the regulator is faulty, maybe swap it with one from a less critical backup stove. 6. Check the solution. Does the stove work reliably now? Monitor it for a bit. This structured approach ensures problems are fully resolved and hopefully don't reoccur, rather than just applying quick fixes that might fail again later. And even here, those interpersonal and team skills like negotiation and influencing might be needed, maybe negotiating with a supplier for a faster delivery of a replacement part, or influencing another stall owner to lend a piece of equipment temporarily.
That's incredibly thorough, a real step-by-step process for fixing things. So what's the ultimate outcome of controlling these physical resources effectively?
The key outputs are work performance information. This is analyzed data providing a clear picture of how physical resources are actually being used compared to the plan. It highlights performance, shows gaps in availability, points out overusage or underutilization that needs to be addressed, and informs future planning. And again, you might generate change requests. If controlling resources reveals a major issue, like realizing you need to rent an additional large generator because the main one simply isn't powerful enough for all the stalls and lighting, or needing to significantly shift resources like extra tables and chairs from a quiet area to a suddenly overcrowded one, these might require formal changes. These changes could impact the project schedule or cost baseline, and they would typically need to go through a formal integrated change control process for approval.
Wow, okay. We've gone through all 6 steps of project resource management in quite some detail. Plan, estimate, acquire, develop, manage, control. That's a lot to process. But looking beyond these steps, what else should we know about managing resources in today's world? Things are changing fast, right? Are there any modern ideas or approaches that are becoming really important?
Absolutely. The field is definitely evolving. One of the biggest shifts, I think, is in how we view the project manager's role. They aren't just seen as a taskmaster or a boss giving orders anymore. They are increasingly expected to be a true leader as well as a manager.
Leader and manager, what's the difference in this context?
Well, a manager might focus on planning, organizing, and controlling tasks. A leader inspires, motivates, and empowers the team to achieve their best. So a modern project leader focuses on forming the team, motivating them intrinsically, and empowering them to make decisions and take ownership. This means actively involving team members in the planning and decision-making processes, especially in areas that affect their work, not just telling them what to do after the fact.
Like that school captain involving the class reps in planning sports day.
Exactly like that. It gives them ownership. It often brings out much better ideas because they're closer to the actual work or the ground truth. And it significantly strengthens their commitment to making the project, the festival, the sports day, whatever it is, a real success. A leader listens, guides, supports, and inspires, rather than just commands and controls.
Why is involving and empowering the team so important? Why does it lead to better results?
Well, partly because they are often the experts on the ground doing the actual work. The volunteers running the stalls know what challenges they face better than anyone. They bring unique knowledge, perspectives, and experience. And beyond that, it's just basic human psychology, isn't it? People are naturally more invested, more motivated, and more productive when they feel heard, when their opinions are valued, and when they have a sense of ownership over the solutions and the outcome.
Makes sense. People support what they help create.
Exactly. So a project manager, acting as a leader, is responsible for proactively creating an environment that facilitates teamwork, that continually motivates people, recognition, and that provides opportunities for individual growth and contribution. That's how you unlock a team's full potential and creativity.
That's a really powerful idea. So what are some of these cool new ways of managing resources that reflect this shift? I'm curious about what's becoming popular, maybe on the cutting edge.
Yeah, the world of project management is definitely always evolving, adapting to new technologies and new ways of working. We're generally moving away from those rigid top-down command and control structures where the boss dictates every detail towards more collaborative and supportive approaches that empower teams by delegating decision-making authority. Modern resource management also focuses heavily on optimizing how we use all resources, making every effort and every rupee count. Some key trends include emotional intelligence, EI. We talked about this in our managed team, but its importance is really being emphasized across the board now. It's huge. A project manager with high EI doesn't just manage tasks, they manage people with empathy. They understand their own feelings and, even more importantly, they can accurately perceive and respond constructively to the feelings of their team members.
Noticing when someone's stressed or frustrated.
Exactly. If a team member seems unusually stressed, burnt out, or maybe withdrawn, a manager with high EI will notice those subtle cues, approach them with genuine concern, listen without judgment, and offer support or explore solutions together, rather than just demanding results or ignoring the signs. Research consistently shows that teams led by managers with high EI are more effective, more innovative, happier, and have significantly lower turnover. It's about building psychological safety and trust, like understanding your friend's mood and knowing intuitively how to help them, instead of just pushing them harder without acknowledging their struggles.
That sounds like a much better way to work. What else?
Self-organizing teams. This concept is particularly popular in fast-moving, dynamic projects, especially common in IT, software development, or research, often associated with agile methodologies. Instead of a manager assigning every single task and micromanaging the work, the team itself figures out how best to accomplish the work, who should do what based on skills and availability, and how to adapt to changing requirements.
So the team manages itself, in a way.
To a large extent, yes. The project manager's role shifts significantly. They become more of a facilitator, a coach, or a servant leader. Their job is to provide the necessary environment and support clear goals, resources, removing obstacles, protecting the team from distractions, and then trusting the team to organize themselves and get the job done efficiently and creatively. It's like that group of friends planning a surprise party. They naturally decide amongst themselves who will buy the cake, who gets decorations, who sends invites, without one person needing to dictate every single action. This approach leverages the collective intelligence and initiative of the entire team.
That requires a lot of trust.
It does, on both sides. And good communication within the team. Another big one is virtual teams, distributed teams. We touched on this during acquisition, but it's a massive trend impacting resource management. With technology like ubiquitous video calls, sophisticated audio conferencing, shared online portals, and real-time collaboration software, teams can work together effectively, even if they're spread across different cities, states, or even countries.
Like our festival marketing team example.
Exactly. It means you could potentially hire the absolute best talent for a specific skill, no matter where they happen to live. You could hire a specialist data analyst from Hyderabad for a project managed out of Gurugram, or get critical input from a scientific expert in Chennai for a research project based in Mumbai.
Opens up the talent pool globally.
It really does. The challenges, of course, remain significant and require deliberate management attention. You have to actively manage communication across different time zones, ensure clarity when you can't rely on face-to-face cues, bridge potential cultural differences in communication styles or work ethics, and proactively combat the potential feeling of isolation or disconnection that remote team members might experience if they're not actively included in team interactions and social activities. You need specific strategies, like regular virtual team building events or clear communication protocols.
So it really sounds like the modern approach is about being much more flexible, adaptable, and focusing more than ever on the people involved, their well-being, their engagement, their empowerment.
Absolutely. I think that's a perfect summary. Modern resource management prioritizes both optimizing the utilization of all resources, doing more with less, reducing waste, and deeply recognizing the human element as the absolute core of project success. It's about creating a supportive, empowering environment where people can thrive and do their best work, feel valued, and where physical resources are used wisely and efficiently. This combination leads to more successful projects, more innovation, and frankly, a more positive experience for everyone involved.
That's a great point. Now, one thing we haven't explicitly talked about is tailoring. Does every single project follow these 6 steps exactly the same way? Or can you sort of pick and choose or adapt them? For example, is planning resources for a small school science project the same process as planning for building a huge new metro line in Delhi?
Not at all. That's another key insight in modern project management. Tailoring is essential. Project managers always tailor how they apply these processes, how formally, how rigorously, which tools they use. Each project is unique, just like every family or every community celebration is unique. A small, short school project is vastly different from building a multi-billion rupee, multi-year metro line. You wouldn't manage the resources with the same level of detail or formality, right?
Makes sense. So what kinds of things do you consider when tailoring your resource management approach?
Project managers look at several factors specific to their project when deciding how to tailor these 6 processes. Diversity of the team. Is your team made up of people from many different cultural backgrounds? Do they speak different first languages? Do they have different communication styles or ways of thinking based on their experience? Understanding that diversity will heavily impact how you approach develop team and manage team, especially communication and conflict resolution strategies. Physical location of team members. Are all team members sitting together in one office, collocated, or are they spread across different buildings, cities, states, or even countries, like our virtual marketing team example? This significantly impacts your communication planning, the technology tools you need, and how you foster team connection and collaboration. Managing a co-located team is very different from managing a fully distributed one. Industry-specific resources. Does the project require very specialized, perhaps rare or expensive resources? Think about needing a team of nuclear scientists for designing a new power plant versus needing fashion designers and seamstresses for launching a new clothing line. The types of resources, their availability, their cost, and how you acquire and manage them vary hugely by industry. How team members are acquired. Are your team members internal, full-time employees of your organization? Or are they part-time volunteers? Or maybe external contractors hired just for this project? This affects how you manage them, what motivates them. Volunteers might need different recognition than paid staff, reporting structures, and even legal or contractual considerations. Management of the team. Are there already existing organizational tools, policies, or systems for team development and performance management that you need to use? Or do you need to create new ones specifically for this project? Are there team members with special needs, like accessibility requirements, or requiring specific mandatory training, like diversity and inclusion training, to work together effectively and respectfully? Life cycle approach to the project. This is a big one. Is it a project with a very fixed, predictable plan from start to finish, where the scope is well defined up front, often called waterfall or predictive approach? Or is it a project where the requirements are expected to change and evolve rapidly, maybe based on user feedback, like in many software development projects, often using agile or adaptive approaches? The resource needs and management style differ significantly.
Okay, so you really need to think about the specific context of your project. You mentioned agile there. How does resource management work in those fast-changing agile environments?
Right. For projects where things change very quickly, like developing a new mobile app where user feedback comes in constantly, or responding rapidly to a new market trend, agile approaches are increasingly common. These approaches often benefit immensely from specific team structures designed to maximize focus and collaboration.
Like the self-organizing teams you mentioned.
Exactly. Agile often relies heavily on self-organizing teams. These teams are typically small, cross-functional, meaning they have all the skills needed within the team, and empowered to make decisions quickly. Members are often encouraged to be generalized specialists, having deep expertise in one area, but also broad enough skills to help out with other tasks as needed, making the team more flexible.
So less rigid roles.
Often, yes. And there's usually less time or need for a central boss or project manager to make every single resource allocation decision day to day. The team, being close to the work, figures out how to best deploy their collective effort. Because requirements can change frequently, the collaboration within the team and between the team and stakeholders, like users, needs to be incredibly intense and frequent. Constant communication, quick feedback loops, and shared knowledge are vital for solving problems and adapting effectively on the fly.
How does that affect physical resources?
Well, in such environments, the predictability for needing specific physical resources far in advance might be lower. So you might rely more on having agreements in place with suppliers for fast delivery when needed, or using lean methods to minimize waste and inventory. The focus is on flexibility, rapid response, and continuous delivery of value, which requires a very adaptive approach to managing both team and physical resources. This intense collaboration boosts productivity and facilitates innovative problem solving, making it really critical for success in these highly variable or uncertain projects.
Wow, okay. We have covered so much ground. From figuring out who does what for planning a community festival to understanding how great leaders motivate a diverse team and making sure you never run out of critical supplies mid-project, we've really taken a deep dive into project resource management.
We certainly have.
We saw how crucial it is to first plan your overall resource strategy, then meticulously estimate exactly what you need, diligently go out and acquire those resources, carefully develop your team into a strong, cohesive unit, expertly manage them through the ups and downs of project execution, and finally, precisely control those physical resources to ensure everything runs smoothly and efficiently. It's a really comprehensive approach to making things happen.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest takeaway here, for me at least, is remembering that projects are not just about schedules, budgets, and task lists. Fundamentally, they are about people and the resources they need and use to get the work done. By thoughtfully applying these 6 processes, planning, estimating, acquiring, developing, managing, and controlling, you set yourself up not just for finishing the project, but for achieving real success, delivering value, and maybe even finding some joy and satisfaction in the process for everyone involved. It's like being a good conductor of an orchestra.
Ah, I like that analogy again.
Yeah. You need all the right instruments, the resources, and you need each musician, the team members, knowing their part, playing skillfully, and being beautifully in sync with everyone else, all guided by the conductor's vision to create a true masterpiece. It's about making sure that the human element and the physical elements work together in perfect harmony.
That's a beautiful image to keep in mind. So, listeners, the next time you're planning anything, whether it's big or small, from organizing that class picnic to helping your family start a new business idea or even just managing your own study schedule, try thinking about these 6 steps. And here's a little thought for you to mull over as we wrap up. If you had to pick just one of these 6 steps we discussed, plan, estimate, acquire, develop, manage, control as the absolute most important one for project success, which one would it be and why? What stands out to you as the most crucial element in ensuring a project has everything it needs to truly shine?
That's a great question to ponder. And keep these ideas in mind generally, because understanding how resources are managed isn't just a skill for professional project managers working on huge construction sites or IT projects. It's truly a vital life skill. Well, these principles help you manage your own time more effectively, your most precious resource. Organize your studies better, plan your hobbies, coordinate group activities with friends, and even manage relationships more effectively by understanding needs, roles, and communication. It's about knowing what you need, who can help, how to work together, and how to track progress. So go forth and maybe try applying some of these principles in your daily life, even in small ways. You might just surprise yourself with how much more you can achieve with a little bit of conscious resource management.